years after his last victim, Ed's bloodlust has peaked, and he begins stalking a local woman named Bernice Warden.
The day that Bernice was killed, her son was out hunting, and he came back to the hardware store and found blood all over the floor and knew that something terrible had happened. Bernice's son immediately said, "This is Ed Gein, he did this."
Along with the tip from Bernice's son, police discover a receipt Bernice had written out for Ed's purchase of antifreeze, and their suspicions run high. They quickly obtain a warrant to search Ed's farm. What they find will shock the town forever.
They couldn't get in the house at first, so they went into the woodshed and started investigating there.
Often with serial killers, when you enter their house, it's kind of a house of horrors. And I think that's what the authorities found once they got inside.
It was very dark. There were no lights. He spins and he turns around, and there was Bernice Warden hanging upside down, dressed out like a deer.
It was very hard to visualize that, of somebody doing that to human. You know, we butcher pigs, we butcher cows and stuff, but to deer, but to have thinking that somebody would take a person and do that to him. But we didn't know the peculiar thoughts that went through Eddie's mind at that time.
They found her heart on a frying pan on the stove. It seems extraordinarily gruesome to us, but I believe to him it felt natural.
Sheriff Art Schley and Captain Lloyd Scoferster discover a collection of human appendages and masks made out of real faces hanging on the wall.
In addition to there being various skulls and lampshades made of human skin and all manner of things we would find to be evil and disgusting. But upstairs, authorities found a nailed shut room. And within that room was a kind of homage to his mother. And so that's kind of where Robert Bloch got the idea for Psycho.
Just like Psycho, Ed Gein was haunted by the memory of his dead mother. In both the movie and real life, the death of the killer's mother set off a murder spree.
Gein was attracted to middle-aged women who were somewhat busy, who reminded him of his mother. It seemed to be his mother that he was really, committing these crimes against in some way.
The rumors of Ed's odd behavior had spread for years. The depravity of his actions shocked the people of Plainfield. Some even refused to believe that the simple-minded farmhand could be capable of such horrific evil.
People got on the phone and said, "Look what happened at the Gein place. Nothing like that ever happens here. How could this happen? We still don't believe it. He seemed like such a nice guy."
Fred Reed still remembers the phone call in which he learned the truth about his friend, Ed Gein.
The phone call from the neighbor was that Bernice Warden had been murdered, and they'd caught Eddie because he was the one that had done it, and that they had gone out to his house and found her. She'd been gutted out like a deer. And it was very hard to visualize somebody doing that to human. There was some pretty wild stuff that Eddie did, I guess.
Ed is arrested in the evening of November 16th, 1957. During the interrogation, Sheriff Art Schley tries to make sense of Ed's heinous secrets.
He didn't deny it. They asked him questions and he was fairly forthcoming. Did he feel that perhaps the people he killed were animals just there for the taking? Perhaps that was something that went through his mind to rationalize. But ultimately, I don't think there was much rationalization going on. I think that this was the world he had created, and I don't think there were any bounds in that world.
Ed Gein is calm as he recounts his crimes, but Sheriff Art Schley can't focus. His head is still back at the brutal scene he witnessed at the farmhouse.
It's like skinning a deer, I guess. The skin. It's much thinner, except there's hair on the head.
The officers that went into Ed's house were completely devastated by what they found.
I think it stayed with them forever.
The traumatized sheriff reaches a breaking point and decides to take the law into his own hands. As a result of the sheriff's violent outburst, Ed's confession is ruled inadmissible, leaving his fate uncertain. This only further compounds the frustration of local police, who feel they could have stopped Ed if they had paid closer attention to the signs.
Imagine walking into a house, seeing something that is as gruesome as that. And imagine doing that when you were in a very small town where probably the worst kind of crime is someone getting drunk one night and having to spend the night in the local jail. These officers would have been haunted by this for the rest of their lives.
Without a confession, the police take on the gruesome task of cataloging what they have found. The remains of Ed's second victim, Mary Hogan, are indistinguishable from the body parts he has stolen from graveyards, so the police are only able to charge him in the death of local shopkeeper Bernice Warden.
They were supposed to be the protectors of the town. They were supposed to be making sure everybody was safe. All of a sudden, they're finding out all this stuff was going on underneath their clueless eyes.
It's the same kind of haunting that occurred in Dallas when JFK is shot. The community just doesn't get over that.
The people of Plainfield are so disturbed by what has happened, some dismiss the continued allegations, even initially coming to Ed's defense.
When that happened that night, the phone rang, and we were just finishing up supper before we went out to milk the cows and then do the night chores. My uncle always lived with us. He never was married, so he lived with us. And he and Dad were talking to us. Nah, dang it, they said somebody's picking on Eddie again. He wouldn't do anything like that. He's harmless. You know, he's kind of a simpleton, but he's harmless. But he did the deed, as we found out.
He was like the boogeyman and a horrible witch combined. That's kind of what the mythology became.
My mom, she reacted real good. I remember that we had a cat that was always in the house, and that cat, for some reason, had jumped off the chair onto the floor. And man, my mother about went nuts for just that strange sound.